You hear the word modern audience brashed around on the internet like God knows how many things, from modern creatives all the way through, Disney executives, and so on. But in my humble opinion, the modern audience is a myth. The modern audience is not some glaring, homogenized being with a simplistic, unified taste. And let's talk about it. I'm Will, I'm the host of the Bald Book Geek, like, sub, do the usual, and if you want early access and exclusive content, please consider joining my Patreon or becoming a channel member. The term modern audiences is frequently tossed around in discussions about modern entertainment. They often use it to justify creative decisions or shifts in tone, style, and storytelling, or completely disregarding established canons, or using it to disrail the classic films or games or properties. But is there really such a thing as a modern audience? Are they this weird, unfathomable collective entity with specific monotheistic tastes? The truth is far more complicated, and I believe the concept of a modern audience is a myth, and here's why. The most glaring flaw with the idea of a modern audience is that it's assumed everyone has the same taste, preferences, and values. In reality, audiences are far more diverse than ever before. Thanks to the internet, we have unprecedented access to different cultures, niche communities, and a wide range of genres that cater to countless tastes. One person's modern favourite could be a retro-style platformer, while the other one might gravitate to a more gritty, mature-themed TV drama. For instance, in gaming, the popular indie titles are often harkening back to old-school mechanics, which contrast with the blockbuster, photorealistic open-world adventures and $50–100 million games plus. The same is true for movies. Top Gun Maverick brought in massive crowds with nostalgia, classic action feel, and good acting, while Everything Everywhere All at Once found success by embracing experimental storytelling. This diversity proves that there is no single modern audience that gravitates towards one type of content. One of the most telling signs that modern audience is a myth is the overwhelming appeal of nostalgia in entertainment. Think about it. People were still watching Indiana Jones, the original Jurassic Park, classic Star Wars, and look at the recent box office success of Super Mario. And even the games dominate the charts. There aren't modern ideas. There is no modern thing. They're decades-old properties which still find appeal today with today's audience, young and old. So if the so-called modern audience only crave new, edgy or progressive content, this wouldn't really make sense. And nostalgia isn't just limited to big franchise. Contrast indie developers recreating 8-bit and 16-bit games next to the big AA titles and look at those sales of some of those. Or how retro-style Pokemon games still attract millions of players today. Shows like Stranger Things revel in the 80s aesthetic, and their success demonstrates how people are drawn to familiar, comfortable storytelling and visuals. Clearly, many people want to relive a past experience, or something that is very familiar, suggesting that these audiences are not exclusively hungry for something new or the modern. With rise of streaming services like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on, it's given viewers the power to choose when they want to watch and what they want to watch. Instead of tuning in for a primetime event, people can binge an entire series from the 90s or explore obscure documentaries. And this abundance of choice has fractured audiences into smaller niche groups rather than uniting them into a singular modern crowd. Gaming has had a similar shift. Platforms like Steam, Nintendo, and Xbox Game Pass offer a vast library of games spanning all genres and eras imaginable. It's possible for someone to jump between a high-budget AA release like Elder Ring and then some indie darling like Stardew Valley within the same week. This wide array of choice indicates that audiences are anything but singular in their taste. Modern audiences are far more critical, not necessarily different. While it's true today's audiences have more access to information and are quicker to voice their opinions on social media, this doesn't mean that tastes are fundamentally different. Audiences have always been critical. The difference being is how their voices are amplified, and some may criticize certain choices as pandering, while others may approach the same content for its inclusivity. The point is, people's response are far more visible, not necessarily unified or indication of a modern taste. Take example, the backlash against various live action remakes of Disney films. These films were made under the assumption that modern audiences want familiar stories told with updated visuals and contemporary sensibilities, yet many fans criticize them for lacking the charm of the original. Similarly, certain video game remakes are met with equal part excitement and skepticism, proof that the supposed taste of the modern audience is far from homogeneous. There is no homogenized audience. The term modern implies that audiences are fundamentally different because of time we live in, but it's far more accurate to say that accessibility has changed thanks to global access to streaming platforms, digital libraries, and online communities. People can enjoy content from any era or genre regardless of when it was made. For instance, retro gaming is thriving today, and the collection of classic titles being released on modern consoles. You can access TV shows and movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s with a few clicks, and even go back to the early days of cinema and watch some silent classics. This isn't about living in a modern time as much as it's about we consume entertainment differently, and it's evolved. The idea of a modern audience is largely a marketing tool used by studios, developers, and executives to justify their creative choices. In truth, audiences are diverse, unpredictable, and sometimes nostalgic. What appeals to one group may not appeal to another, and the supposed unified preference of today's audiences are simply a myth to push certain narratives or trends. The entertainment landscape is rich, multidimensional. Just like its audience, whether it's gaming, TV, or movies, there is something for everyone, regardless of what decade it comes from. The concept of a modern audience may sound useful, but in reality, it's a oversimplification that fails to capture the complex tastes and preferences that truly define today's consumers. We aren't waiting for a big release to go to cinema anymore. We have access to all the information. Some people don't want change and some do. But remember, the modern audience is 100% a myth.